Bucknutters, welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, June 9th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen. Steve, the roller coaster ride has finally ended. Chris Holtmann will take over as Ohio State's men's basketball coach. There's apparently going to be a press conference later today, and what a roller coaster ride this has been all week. I mean, it started with Matta getting fired seemingly out of nowhere on Monday. Then all these big names emerged that could be possibilities for the job, like Billy Donovan and all this. Then it looked like the Buckeyes were going to have to settle for the coach at Creighton, Doug McDermott. Everybody was upset about that. And now they've got Chris Holtmann from Butler. I really like this. The process was weird, but I like the end point. I'm a big fan of Chris Holtmann. I think he's going to do good things at Ohio State. Just your thoughts on this process and your thoughts on Chris Holtmann getting the job, Steve.
Yes, I was writing the story about Chris Holtmann last night, just getting things in order so when this moment arrived, we'd be ready. And he is very impressive. He's a native of Kentucky, Nicholasville, Kentucky. Played college basketball at the NAIA level, was an All-American at Taylor University, which I believe is somewhere near Fort Wayne or Muncie, Indiana, I think, out in that part of the state, because when he was serving as an assistant coach later on at Taylor, he got his master's degree from Ball State in administration. So I think business administration, I think. So he's a very impressive candidate. He's been an assistant at Ohio University for John Gross previously. And here's a funny thing. He and John Gross played college basketball together at the same time in the mid-1990s at Taylor University. So I didn't know that. But so there's a lot of ties there and a lot of, and now here's the thing. He's the head coach at Ohio State, and Gross, who's been a head coach for the better part of 10 years, is the head coach at Akron. So how do you figure that one? But at any rate, this guy has done a bang-up job at Butler, and if you want me to just tell you, all three teams won 20 games. I think he had 70 wins combined, something like that. Second place in the Big East his first year, fourth place in the Big East the second year, and second place to Villanova this year. Second place to a Villanova team that they beat twice this past year, once when they were ranked number 1 in the country and once when they were ranked number 2 in the country, and both times when they were the defending national champions. So I think that this guy has got some ability. I think this past year they were 4-3 against teams ranked in the top 10. And that included, I think, a win over Wisconsin, maybe when they were ranked up that high. And they lost, obviously, to North Carolina, which went on and won the national championship in the Sweet 16 round. 92-80, I believe, was the final score. So what everybody says is he takes players and develops them into stars. His recruiting is going to be tested, obviously. Can he recruit at the Big Ten level and get the top 50 players that Ohio State needs to get back on top of the Big Ten? But the good news is he is well connected to Ohio's 2018 class of stars, including but not limited to Darius Baisley, Pete Nance, Justin Arns, Dane Goodwin, and in particular, Dwayne Cohill and Jerome Hunter. Got to get those two. Those two guys have just amazing ability at their positions. So if they can get 4 or 5 of those 6, I think that Ohio State's going to come out of this one smelling like a rose.
I feel like Gene Smith saved his job with this hire. If they would have hired McDermott from Creighton, I think there would have been an uproar, to say the least, in Buckeye Nation. Just the way this whole thing was handled was so haphazard. I mean, you fire Thad Matta, and you're thinking, okay, if they do this out of nowhere in June, they have to have a guy lined up, right? I mean, that's just what you're thinking. They have to have a guy lined up, or they wouldn't be doing this. Then it looks like they don't have a guy lined up. Then they're scrambling at the last minute. And I just feel like, maybe I'm wrong and Chris Holtmann won't be a good hire. I feel like this is a really good hire. And I feel like Gene Smith might have saved his job here, Steve, because this would have been his legacy. This was his legacy right here. You don't get credit for that for Urban Meyer. When Urban Meyer would have came here, if I was the AD, you were the AD. I mean, he would have been here regardless. Mickey Mouse could have been the AD. He would have been here. This is Gene Smith's legacy, and I feel like he saved his job with this hire, perhaps.
Now, you're saying Urban Meyer would have come to Ohio State and been the coach with Mickey Mouse as the athletic director. Now, that's a difference, Dave. Now, I'm just kidding. You can make that case. Some of us, Dave, had faith in Gene all the way through on this and knew they were going to get a frontline guy, even as they had the little dalliance with, what's his name at Creighton. So,
Greg McDermott.
Yeah, Greg McDermott, Dylan McDermott from the practice. But, yeah, I don't know if that job was ever offered. And as I did a radio show with your buddies down at 97.1, Anthony and Rothman yesterday, I said something didn't add up because Jeff Goodman reported that McDermott had been offered the job, and then Adam Jardy from the Dispatch, your friend, said that Gene was still interviewing candidates. I don't know how you go on and interview people when you've already offered the job to somebody. I think what the next step is to get the staff in place. He's got a real hotshot recruiter by the name of Ryan Peaton with him there, and Peaton's also worked with Gross, I believe. He's done a bang-up job. Now, he could be considered by Barry Collier, the AD at Butler, as the next head coach, because they love to just keep it rolling. One guy leaves, and they just have the next guy go right along. I mean, Holtmann was bumped up as the head coach when Brandon Miller, the former LSU assistant, planed out due to a medical issue. I believe early in the 2014-15 season, they made him the interim coach. And by January, he beat North Carolina, which is number 5 at the time, at the Battle for Atlantis, and won some. They were 10-4 and ranked 15th in the country. And Barry Collier said, "Well, enough of this. You're no longer the interim coach. You're the head coach." And they gave him a contract. This past April, they gave him a contract extension through 2025. So they're going to tear that one up. Not sure what the buyout is. Sure, all the details will come here shortly. But back to Gene Smith. Gene is our man with the plan, Dave. He's been around since 2005. It's the 12th year at Ohio State. He's been on the basketball committee. He knows everybody. You should know better than to doubt being Gene. Come on, Dave. You're better than that.
Hey, Steve, that year he was on the basketball committee, he did a great job with the seeding with Ohio State. I mean, that was fantastic.
Put them all.
Let's just put all the number one seeds together. That was awesome. Let's go to Newark, New Jersey while we're at it. Yeah, good job, Gene. Nice job. Good job. You and I will agree to disagree on that. But you and I are in concert with Chris Holtmann. We both like him. To fans out there that might be concerned that, he doesn't have much of a track record, and I mean, if there's a fan out there that's not really enamored by this hire, what would you say to them?
Well, I think he coached at Gardner-Webb first. He was a 3-year head coach there before he joined Brandon Miller as his number 2 guy at Butler for 1 year, and then he took over the head coach. I mean, he left the head coaching position to be an assistant at a little higher league. Gardner-Webb's in the Big South. He took over a program that had 8 wins the year before, and I believe that the possession was 10 wins, 12 wins, and then 21 wins in his last year. And even as he left that program for an assistant coaching job, the president at Gardner-Webb said, "This is the guy responsible for, turning our program, and in some regards, our university around." So when the president of the university loves you even though you're leaving, that says a lot right there. And then obviously, as I mentioned, Barry Collier saw enough of him after 2 months as the head coach. They beat North Carolina, and the guy was a national. So he was a made man at that moment, it seemed like. So I think there's a lot to like here. Again, I think we need to tap the brake for half a second and, get below the surface and see what's going on. He and his wife, Lori, have one daughter who's 7 years old. He is 45 years old, so he's in the prime of his coaching career. And as we said, when they have swapped paint against some of the very best in college basketball, they have come out the winner. I think in his 3 years there, they were 13-13 against ranked teams, something like that. But this past year, something like 4-3 against teams in the top 10. They had the number 4 seed in their region, I believe, which was the highest seed that Butler's ever had. And of course, Brad Stevens took that program to back-to-back Final Fours, presumably as a lower seed. So, yeah, I think, there's a lot to like here. on the surface, and I think we're going to be even more impressed when we get to meet Holtmann later today.
Before I let you go, I know everybody's wondering, is Kyle Young going to follow Holtmann to Ohio State? I have to think he will. I mean, this is a kid from Ohio, number 2 ranked player in the state of Ohio in the class of 2017. Picked Butler over Ohio State, number 18 small forward in the country according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 77 overall player. Again, the kid from Massillon Jackson, 6'6", 205-pound small forward. Do you think it's a foregone conclusion Kyle Young's going to follow Holtmann to Columbus? Or do you think there might be some trouble there?
Well, I think Ohio State is in luck because Butler's freshman, unlike Ohio State's, who Braxton Beverly, he actually enrolled in May, and Caleb Wesson, he just enrolled last week. Butler's freshmen don't enroll for 2 more weeks. So had he enrolled, it is entirely possible he would have had to do the transfer sit-out year and not play this year. Honestly, it kind of comes down to what the Butler administration, Barry Collier, and their president, or excuse me, whatever Barry Collier, I presume, is going to be the one making this decision. If Kyle Young pursues it, that's the first thing. I think it's interesting to note that Ryan Peden, the assistant, and Chris Holtmann out-recruited Thad Matta for an Ohio kid, Kyle Young, to go to Thad Matta's alma mater, Butler. I mean, I think that Thad Matta lost a kid to his alma mater, and he was at Ohio State. So that, to me, tells you a lot about the guy that they're getting, and potentially Peden, kind of the guy behind the curtain, so to speak, if he comes. Also up in the air, what's going to happen with Chris Gent. He interviewed for the head job. Does Holtmann retain him? They're about the same age. Gent may actually be probably 2 or 3 years older than Holtmann. Is he going to be retained as a Buckeye? What's up with Greg Paulus, Dave Dickerson? What's going to happen with them? But Kyle Young, I guess we're going to try and get a hold of him here this morning and see which way the wind's blowing with him, and if he is interested in Ohio State. It's entirely possible he would come, and if so, potentially could play this year. And now all of a sudden, if the pieces come together and Caleb Bates-Diop can stay healthy and everything else works out, and Caleb Wesson, who I saw yesterday, looks amazing standing there. He's gotten rid of the gut. If they could put these pieces together, this is an NCAA tournament team this year. And I'm not bullcrapping anybody on that. So, say what you will, if, and that's a big if, Bates-Diop is healthy. I mean, think back to last year. He had 14-14 in the first game against Nate. He was going to have a great year. They lost 7 games by 6 points or less. Figure with him, they would have won 5 of those. That's an NCAA tournament team instead of a team that gets you fired. So, yeah, I like where we're headed here, Dave. Nice trajectory. As I said, I was put on this earth to cover Final Fours, not first-round losses to last-place Rutgers. So there you go.
That's right. And you had your string there. I was with you. We covered a couple of Final Fours there within like 5 years apart. That was pretty nice.
Preferably Final Fours in New Orleans, Louisiana are very nice. Very nice.
We've been there a couple of times, more than a couple. Steve Helwagen, great insights. I really appreciate it. This is an exciting day for Ohio State basketball, and really appreciate you taking time to join me here on the show. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in. Keep it locked to Bucknuts all day. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage of the press conference if it does happen today. We're hearing 1 o'clock. That's not official, but we will definitely have wall-to-wall coverage of the Chris Holtmann hiring. Thanks again to Steve Helwagen, and thanks again to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.